Hello children, today we are going to discuss nutrition in plants. What is nutrition? The process of taking in food by an organism and its utilization by the body is called nutrition. There are two types of nutrition, autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. First we are going to discuss autotrophic nutrition in plants. Okay. Green plants are able to prepare their own food, as we all know, from simple raw material like carbon dioxide and water. Air and from air it takes carbon dioxide and water from the soil. Plants get the energy from the sunlight, and this process takes place in chlorophyll. And what do we call this process? Photosynthesis. So by the process of photosynthesis, all green plants, they make food. So what if we want to define photosynthesis? What is photosynthesis? The synthesis of food occurs in the presence of sunlight. Okay. Photosynthesis combines the non-living compounds. What are the non-living compounds? Carbon dioxide and water. Non-living components like carbon dioxide and water of the environment, okay, in the presence of sunlight, and this process takes place in chlorophyll. The food synthesized by the green leaves is what? That is glucose, and in this process oxygen is released. Now the food prepared, the green leaves, they prepare the food and they transport this food to other parts of the plant by the stem. In most plants, glucose is converted into starch and stored in leaves, stems and roots. Okay children, what four conditions are necessary for photosynthesis? First is carbon dioxide, second is water, third is chlorophyll, and fourth is sunlight. So these four conditions are necessary for photosynthesis. We are going to prove it one by one, okay, by starch test. First children, you must know what is starch test. Okay, we will pluck for starch test. What we will do, we will pluck one green leaf, okay, and then we will boil it in water. We will take in the beaker and we will boil in the beaker this leaf in the water. When it becomes soft, okay, for about 5 minutes we will boil. Place it in a test tube. After that we will place it in a test tube with alcohol. What is there in the test tube? Alcohol. Why we are going to boil it in alcohol? To remove chlorophyll. Okay, but we do not boil it directly. We will keep this test tube in the water and we will heat the water. Alcohol take the heat from the water and it will boil, and then what happens? Chlorophyll will come out from the leaves. Now we will wash the leaf. We will take out this leaf and we will wash it and place it on a plate. Okay. Wash the leaf in the warm water to remove the alcohol. Now spread the leaf out on a white tile and pour iodine drops. Okay. We will find that we will observe that the part of the leaf become blue black. Why it become blue black? Because the starch present in it turn when it comes in the contact of starch, when it comes in the contact of iodine, starch turns blue black. Okay, so this is what starch test. This is what starch test we call it. Now children, other thing we are going to prove that this is important. First is what? That light is necessary for photosynthesis. What we will do in this activity 2, what we will do? Take a potted plant and destarch its leaves by keeping it in dark for 2 days. Take a black paper and cut a simple L shape. Okay, black paper and simple L shape stencil we will make. Cut a simple L shape in it by using a stencil Cover one leaf with this paper. Leave the setup in sunlight for 4 to 6 hours. Now detach this leaf from the plant and we will follow the same starch test. Okay, what we will observe that after the starch test, the part of the leaf turned blue black, showing this part turned blue black, which was open to the sunlight. It turns blue black. What it shows that wherever the sunlight, it gets the sunlight, formation of starch takes place there. Now next activity, children, I am going to discuss that chlorophyll is important. For chlorophyll, what we will do, we will take variegated leaf. What is the meaning of variegated? Like we will take a money plant leaf. You have seen the leaf which has some part white. Okay, rest is green. This is white part. We will boil it in water. This leaf, money plant leaf, we will boil in water, then alcohol. Then we will do the starch test. We will find the white portion where the chlorophyll is not present, that is remained white, and rest portion becomes blue black. So what it shows, the green part which is having chlorophyll, that turns blue black. Now the next activity we are going to discuss that carbon dioxide is important. Okay, so what we will do, take a de-starch potted plant, take a conical flask. This is conical flask. Okay, and from the that, okay, we are going to put some potassium hydroxide in it, KOH. This is what potassium hydroxide. Insert one leaf in this in this conical flask. Okay, so why we are putting this in this conical flask? Air is there, but what part is absorbed by KOH? Carbon dioxide. Now this leaf is getting everything. It is getting air, but without carbon dioxide. Okay, without carbon dioxide. It is getting light, it is getting water, but not what it is not getting? Carbon dioxide. Okay, so we have taken the plant, and in this plant the other leaves are there. We are going to keep this plant in the sun for 5 to 6 hours. Later on we will pluck these two leaves and we will do the starch test. And children, we will find the leaf which was inside the bottle, conical flask, in which it has not got carbon dioxide, it is not giving the starch test. But the leaf which was out, it was getting carbon dioxide, it will give the starch test. Okay, children, so this way we can prove that 4 things are important for the photosynthesis. What 4 things? Carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll and sunlight. Now children, we are going to discuss about heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition. Okay, heterotrophic nutrition also takes place in plants. All plants are not autotrophs. There are 3 types of nutrition. We are going to discuss one by one. First is parasitic nutrition. Okay. Parasitic, some plants like dodder, it cannot synthesize its food. Some non-green plants live in or on other living organisms and derive their food from them. Example, dodder. Okay, it is a complete parasite. It is completely depend on its host plant from which it draws the food. That plant is called host plant. It draws the food from host plant. Okay, so it grows on host plant and it draws its food. Dodder is a plant-like plant that sucks food from another plant using root-like. It has very thin root-like structure. Okay, structure. Such plants are what do we call? Dodder, parasitic plants. Okay, and from which it draws the food is called host. Now partial parasites are also there, like Mistletoe. Mistletoe grows on mahua and mango. Okay, mahua and mango tree. Mistletoe. Mawa and mango tree. It can prepare its own food, but for water and mineral, uh, uh, it depends on host plant. It takes water and mineral from the host plants. Okay, that is why this mistletoe is called partial parasite. Now come to the insectivorous. Now children, we are going to discuss insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants, they grow in the soil where the deficiency of nitrogen is there. Okay, where they grow in the soil where the soil which is nitrogen deficient soil. Okay, they grow in nitrogen deficient soil. Example of this insectivorous plants, pitcher plant and Venus flytrap. Venus flytrap. I am going to tell you about the pitcher plant. Pitcher plant, in the pitcher plant, a leaf becomes modified from a pitcher-like structure. Okay, pitcher-like structure, and petiole turn into lid. Okay. Inside the pitcher, there are hairs pointing downwards. The hairs are there; they are pointing downwards. When an insect enters in the pitcher plant, the lid closes to trap the insect and it gets entangled in the hair. The cells of the pitcher plant secrete digestive juices to digest the insect. Okay, now we are coming to the saprophytic plants. Example of saprophytic plants are mushroom, fungi. Okay, mushroom, fungi, and bacteria is also saprophytic in nature. Okay, bacteria is also saprophytic in nature. So these they are non-green plants, live on dead and decaying. On which they live? Dead and decaying plants and animals. Dead and decaying plants and animals. They live on dead and decaying plants and animals and derive their food from them. Example, as I told you, mushroom and fungi. Okay, they secrete digestive juices on the dead and decaying matter. This converts the solid matter into a liquid. They then absorb the nutrients from this liquid. This method of getting nutrients from the dead and decaying matter in the form of liquid is known as saprophytic nutrition. Now one more, I am going to discuss about one more kind of plants that are symbiotic. They live in symbiotic relationship and the process is called symbiosis. Okay, so what are the plants and they are which live in symbiotic relationship? Like lichen. Okay, I am giving you the example of lichen. In this mode of nutrition, two different kind of organism work together. In symbiotic relationship, what happened? Two different kind of organism work together for their mutual benefit. Example, lichen. In this, algae, which is an autotroph. Algae prepares food. Okay, in this, what two organisms live together? Algae and fungi. Algae and fungi. What is the part of algae to do? Alga, which is an autotroph, and fungus, which is a saprophyte, live together in this lichen. The fungus supplies water and mineral. Fungus supply water and minerals to the cell of the algae, and in return, what happens? While the alga supplies, it takes that water and mineral and prepares food, and supplies that food to the fungus. Okay, fungus is supplying water and minerals. Okay, and this relationship is beneficial relationship is called what? Symbiosis. Children, one more thing I would like to discuss. Replenishing of soil is very important. plants absorb nutrient from the soil, therefore the amount of nutrients in the soil goes on decreasing. How they replenish the soil? By adding manures and fertilizers, but naturally also this replenishment takes place by rhizobium bacteria. Rhizobium bacteria, all you know, lives in the root nodules of leguminous plant. Okay, this is also a kind of symbiotic relationship. Leguminous plants, like rhizobium, gets shelter in like leguminous, and in return it fixes nitrogen. What is the function of rhizobium? It fixes nitrogen for the plant. Okay, it gives nitrogen, atmospheric, it fixes atmospheric nitrogen, and the plant take that nitrogen, and in return it is living in the root nodules of legumes. So this way they are benefiting each other. So that's all for this lesson. Yes, children, now we are going to revise nutrition in animals. The various processes involved in the nutrition in animals are ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. What is ingestion? Ingestion is the taking in of food. It involves taking in the food through the mouth and eating it. Digestion is the breakdown of food into a simple soluble form with the help of digestive juices and made in the body. Absorption is the process by which the food in the soluble form passes into the body fluid such as blood. Assimilation is the process by which absorbed nutrients are utilized by the body. Egestion is the process of elimination of undigested solid parts of the food. Now children, we are going to discuss nutrition in amoeba, hydra and frogs. As you know, amoeba is a unicellular organism. It captures its food with the help of pseudopodia. Pseudopodia makes vacuole and we call that food vacuole. The food inside the vacuole is digested by the digestive juices, as I told you here, and then it is absorbed. Assimilation of the food takes place. Then it provides energy to the this amoeba and perform other function. Now come to the hydra. Hydra, all you know, it is multicellular. It is having tentacles. Okay, these are tentacles. Hydra is a simple multicellular animal. It has a number of tentacles around its mouth which are used for ingestion of food. The tentacles entangle small aquatic animals and kill them with their stinging cells. They then push them into the mouth. This is mouth. Inside the body cavity, the digestive juices secreted by the surrounding cells help in the digestion of food. This is then absorbed through the cavity wall and assimilation takes place. Now come to the frog. Children, as I told you in the class, the frog uses its long sticky tongue to catch insect, and frog is having very well developed digestive system like us, in which food is digested with the help of digestive juices. Now we are coming to the spider. Very special way the digestion takes place in a spider. A spider weaves a sticky web in which small insects get stuck. It then injects digestive juices into the body of the insect, which digest the body parts of the insect. Thus, the digestion of spider's food actually takes place outside the spider's body. The spider then sucks up the digested food. So digestion takes place outside the body, then absorption takes place. Now children, mosquito sucks up the blood of animal with its proboscis. Okay, and blood is having food, digested food, and this utilizes. Houseflies suck up the food in the solution form with its feeding tube. And I am telling you about the mouth part of housefly and butterfly. Butterfly sucks up nectar with its proboscis. Now children, we are coming to the human digestive system. Okay. All these steps take place also in human digestive system. Human digestive system consists of a long tube, and we call that tube alimentary canal, human digestive system. Okay, it consists of long tube, that is what? Alimentary canal. Alimentary canal. Okay, this is a very long tube. It starts from mouth and ends at anus. Okay, what are the parts of this? The parts are, first is mouth. I'm going to tell you along with the part what happened in that part. Mouth, digestion starts in mouth. Food is taken or ingested through the, ingestion takes place through the mouth. Okay, in mouth the watery fluid is there. It is secreted by, we call that watery fluid saliva. It is secreted by the 3 pairs of salivary gland in the mouth. Okay, salivary gland secretes saliva, and saliva, what is the function of saliva? It breaks carbohydrates into sugar. Okay, simple, like digestion takes place here, carbohydrate into sugar. This is the function of saliva. It is secreted by 3 pairs of salivary gland, and this saliva mixes with the food, and it breaks, like while chewing. What happened while chewing? Chewing breaks down the food into small pieces and mixes it with saliva. And what do we call this process? Mastication. Okay. Children, as we are talking about teeth help in chewing. We have 2 sets of, in our lifetime, we have 2 sets of teeth. One is milk teeth and other is permanent. The number of milk teeth, 20, and permanent teeth, 32. Okay. So, in permanent teeth, 4 incisors in, there are 2 jaws, upper jaws 16 teeth and lower jaw 16 teeth. So there are 4 incisors, 2 canines, and 6 premolars. 4 premolars and 6 molars. So what I told you, 4 incisors, 2 canines, 4 premolars and 6 molars. Front teeth are called incisors, and the next to incisors 2 canines are there, and back of canine there are 2 premolar, both the side 2 premolars, and then 3 molars. Okay. And children, one very important thing I would like to tell you, the white substance that covers your teeth is called enamel, and it is the hardest substance in the body. So what happened in the mouth? Digestion, partial digestion of carbohydrate takes place. Okay. And now, what is the function of tongue? Tongue is a muscular organ. It helps in mixing the food. It has 2-3 functions. First, it helps in mixing saliva with the food, and second, it's enable us to detect the taste and also help us in speaking. Okay. Now come to the digestion in stomach. What happened from mouth, the food goes to the stomach through a pipe, and that pipe is called esophagus. This pipe is called esophagus, and no digestion takes place in esophagus. Okay, the esophagus leads from our mouth to the stomach. It is made up of muscles. These muscles gently push food down to our stomach in a wave-like action called peristalsis. Okay, and this peristaltic movement takes place throughout the canal. Okay, now we are coming to the stomach. Our stomach is J shape. Okay, muscular bag, and the walls of stomach secrete 3 juices. First is hydrochloric acid, second mucus, and third digestive juices. Okay, these three juices are secreted by the walls of stomach. I am going to tell you the function of these three one by one. First, HCl. What is the function of HCl? First, the acid kills bacteria that enter along with food and also help in digestion of protein by making the medium of the food acidic. Second, what is the function of mucus? As you know, hydrochloric acid is corrosive in nature. The walls of stomach, they have thick lining of mucus, so the wall of stomach are protected from this mucus. Next is digestive juices. Digestive digestive juices, they help in breaking down protein into simpler substances. So here partial digestion of protein takes place. Okay, and one more work of stomach is that it is thick muscular bag. It helps in churning the food. Okay, it churns the food by beating the food. Now here the partial digestion of protein has taken place. This food now move to small intestine. Now digestion in small intestine. Complete digestion takes place in small intestine. Okay. Small intestine also secrete three types of juices. Okay, the muscles in the small intestine mix food with more digestive juices. These digestive juices are coming from where? First, some juices are secreted by the cells of small intestine. So some juices, they are secreted by small intestine itself. Okay, digestive juices by small intestine. Second, liver is the biggest gland in our body. It secretes bile. Liver secretes with juice bile, and bile is stored in gallbladder. Gallbladder. Third is pancreas. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice. Okay, pancreas. Now I am going to tell you their function one by one. First I am going to tell you the liver. Okay, the liver secretes bile, as I told you, which is stored in gallbladder. The bile breaks. Bile, what is the function of bile? Bile breaks fat into tiny droplets. What is the function? Fat into tiny droplets. And now it is easy for digestive juices secreted by small intestine to act on these tiny droplets. Okay, and this digestive juices act on these tiny droplets and convert this into fatty acids and glycerol. These tiny droplets are there, and the final digestion of these fat droplets taken by the digestive juices. These digestive juices convert these tiny droplets into fatty acids and glycerol. Okay, so final digestion of fat turns into fatty acids and glycerol. Now children, I am going to tell you about the pancreas. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice, okay, pancreatic juice changes starch into simple sugar. Starch into simple sugar first. Okay, completely digestion of starch here takes place. Already of fat took place. Now second is what? It breaks protein into amino acids. Final digestion of protein takes place here into amino acids. And third, already I told you, fat turns into fatty acids and glycerol. So here the complete digestion has taken place in small intestine. Small intestine is a thin tube and very long. It is of around 5 to 7 meter long. So in the later part of the like upper part of this, the digestion takes place, and the later part, what happens, absorption takes place. Absorption of food takes place. Okay, that absorption of food occur through thousands of small finger-like projection. We call that villi, and villi has very rich supply of blood vessels. So the digested food goes through semi-permeable membrane into the blood, and from here the food goes. As I told you, each villus has a network of fine blood capillaries close to the surface. The food absorbed on the surface of the villus, pass into the blood in the capillary, and from blood it goes to all parts of the body. Now next step is assimilation. Next step is assimilation. Of the food which is digested food reach to all parts of our body. The food absorbed in the blood is transported to different parts of the body. It is used to provide energy and materials for growth. Like from glucose we get energy, and from protein amino acid. Amino acid helps in the in growth of our body and repair of body tissue. This is the final stage in the process of digestion, and we call this assimilation. Now come to the last is egestion. Egestion, like the food that cannot be digested, moves from the small intestine into a wide tube called large intestine. Here most of the water part is in the waste is absorbed. The waste food, which is now almost solid, is stored in the last part of the large intestine called rectum. It is then passed from the body through anus. Now digestion in ruminants. We are going to discuss digestion in ruminants. What are ruminants, children? All like cow, buffaloes, goat, they are ruminant. They have complicated stomach consisting of 4 chambers. Their stomach consists of 4 chambers. Okay. Food, what happened? Food that is swallowed goes into the first chamber. Okay. That is called rumen. First chamber is called rumen. Here it is partially digested and is called cud. Here, okay, what do we call the partially digested food here? Cud. It then goes to the second chamber, from where it is returned to the mouth for further chewing. And this process is called chewing the cud. And also we call it rumination. That is why these animals are called ruminants. After chewing, the food is swallowed again, second time, and then digested further in remaining chamber. It is finally sent to the small intestine, where the absorption of the nutrients occur. So same manner like in our body, rest of the digestion takes place in the same manner. So that is why the digestion in ruminant is special. So children, that's all. Okay.